Raising teenagers is hard. Understatement of the century. This is Mentor Select. Mentor Select. Parenting teens to be successful adults. Mentor Select serves parents who are raising teens. Every week, Derek interviews leading experts that work with teens, educators, counselors, mentors, and authors to give you practical tips, strategies, and resources that you can incorporate immediately to better connect and understand your teen. All while parenting them to be successful adults, focusing on social and emotional development, something that's left out of the classroom, but not in ours. Be sure to subscribe, share, and rate. This is Mentor Select, and this is your host, Derek Phillips.
All right, parents, you're in for a great treat today. Our guest is Pastor Jeff Broadnax, who is the National Coordinator of Generations Ministry. How are you, Pastor Jeff?
I'm great, man. I'm blessed. I can't be anything else.
Hey, that makes two of us. I always say life is good. I'm living the dream.
For real.
That's awesome. So where are you joining us from today?
I live in Grove City, Ohio. I'm just south of Columbus.
All right. Yeah, as I was telling you earlier, my wife's from Ohio, so that's a special place in my heart. I'm from Indiana, so I'm from the cold region of the United States.
Well, I can tell you, I did a stint in Texas. Texas.
Awesome.
Grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I left there at 17 and went to California for school.
Okay.
I stayed out there for 7 years and moved to East Texas. I was out in Gladewater, just about 100 miles east of you there.
All right.
3 years, and I moved to New York, lived in New York City for 17 years, and then came back here.
All right.
I'm in Columbus, Ohio now, so
cool.
I had a chance to see different parts of the country.
Definitely. You're well-rounded. They say if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
So, well, there came a point where New York had enough of me. So I needed to get back to the Midwest, my friend.
I understand. Definitely. Well, Pastor Jeff, can you tell us more about what your current role as the National Coordinator for Generations Ministry? What does that consist of?
Absolutely. With my denomination, one of the things that we do is we've been developing programs over our history where we had youth camps. We've had the total number, the highest we had 20 youth camps and mission trips all over the country. And but we've whittled it down, and now we're moving from a regional camp. They're all regional. So you'd have, let's say we have one in Oklahoma City, and you would pull kids from the Dallas area, maybe even part of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Anyway, so we'd bring kids in, and we do, some of them are week long, some of them are weekend. But really a lot of the camp work was working with young people to train them and develop them as leaders, but also leaders within the church context, but also leaders within their regular world, their everyday world. Our belief is that, people only have one life.
Right.
Somebody different at school and somebody different at home, somebody different at church and somebody different at work. You have one life that you live. And so the goal is to learn to be the leader that you've been meant to be in all those places. And so part of what we wanted to do was not just provide activities for young people, but provide leadership development, leadership training, and intergenerational, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit more today.
Mm-hmm.
Some intergenerational relationships to help them do that.
Okay. All right. So when you say intergenerational relationships, what do you mean?
I'm one of those people who believe that we all need three types of people in our lives, right? We need people who can pour into us. We need people who can motivate us. And we need people who we can pour into. Okay. So like that. Most of us, I'm 55. So in my age group, I grew up around older people. I grew up around people who were my grandfather's age. I knew my grandparents, saw both my grandparents, most sets. And so we needed that age group full of people. Mm-hmm. For my parents' age, and then we need people my age, and then we have people who we can pour into. Right. In my view, one of the things that's been lacking when I've in the 35 plus years that I've been working with young people is that the world we live in now has kind of truncated or shortened or shrunk our worldview. Okay. It's gotten us to this place where we only people who are about our age or just older, And so we need the wisdom of people who are older. We need the wisdom of people who were in their 80s and in their 70s and in their 60s and 50s and 40s. Because, man, I tell you,
absolutely,
that's life changing when you can
right.
when you can give people a head start. Somebody can give you a 50-year head start.
Yeah.
If you're a 15-year-old and somebody can give you a 50-year head start,
it's priceless.
Priceless. So that's what I mean. Just having access to doing ministry or running our camps when we had people of all those age ranges.
I like that. Yeah, I do agree. That's something that's not really focused on. It seems like in this current time where people are more so focused on just being surrounded with people their own age versus having that intergenerational relationships. I like that a lot, and I'm big on mentorship and certainly getting the wisdom from people who have already traveled the road that I'm heading down. And they definitely give me that head start, as you may say. And then also younger people, I definitely don't take for granted people younger than me from a different generation, that they have different experiences that I can learn from as well. That is important.
Agreed. We can learn from people who are younger, but also, one of the best ways, I think we've all learned this, you probably know this, I'm sure you know this, that the best way to remember anything is to teach it to somebody else.
Right.
It's on to somebody else.
Right.
I spent about 19 years working in the jail system.
Wow.
I spent 11 years in New York working with young offenders in particular. And they were in a county jail. And that was one of the things that I found, is that so many of them didn't have a whole lot of people who were older than their mothers. Right. Okay. And so I was the age of their mothers, in most of those cases, mothers and fathers. And so they know people older. And so, you're limited in your wisdom. And there's just something about kind of passing on information it's been passed on to me to make sure I pass it on to them, and then they pass it on to other people. I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I like that just approach, because no matter how young you are, there's someone you always still can pour into and mentor that's younger than you, or something I try to encourage youth to do. Like, hey, say if you're a teenager, mentor someone younger than you, and in addition, while you're getting mentored by maybe someone older than you. Yeah, it's a win-win, and just keep that cycle going and exchanging that knowledge. Love it.
Yeah, I mean that's the power of learning, right?
Yep.
Because once we learn how to learn, we can learn from anybody. I mean, how many of us need our kids to teach us stuff about?
Oh, yeah.
That we don't know anything about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. The student teaches the teacher.
Right. Exactly right.
Indeed. Well, Pastor Jeff, I'm curious, you've been doing this for so long. What first got you into ministry and working with you? What led you down this path?
I'll tell you what. When I was in high school, I used to. I was an athlete.
Okay.
Track, but I was also a springboard diver. And so I would, springboard diving back then. You talking about the 1980s, and so late 70s, early 80s, and so the Olympics. You had Greg Louganis, who was this incredible diver. He was the Serena Williams of diving, right? And but I learned I became a coach, a diving coach. So I started working, you're doing diving, it's like gymnastics, and you start doing diving. I was coaching young. Okay. And you just kind of get this, for me, I got a love of watching young people grow and learning like I learned. And so when I went after I graduated high school, I went to college. I went to a Bible college, small Bible college in California. And at that point, we started working in youth camps. And you start seeing life transformation. And so even though I'm only 4 years or 5 years older than some of these kids when I'm working with them,
right,
seeing transformation happen. And man, that's addicting.
Oh, yeah.
It's addicting. And then, I had an opportunity to go into a minister internship program or a pastoral internship program. And, at that point, even though I've pastored churches, I've spent also this whole time working with young people. As well as pastoring churches. So I just got to say, it's addicting. And I love working with young people, seeing lives change, being a part of that and helping them as well as them helping me see my life through fresh eyes too, which is good.
Yeah, that explains it. Like I say, it's addictive seeing that transformation up close and personal and being a part of that change. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I can see why you've been doing this so long. A love for it.
I'll tell you, man, I still see people. There's people in my life, even right now, who I met when they were teenagers. And I met when I was a teenager. And I've been blessed to be like that. I've been blessed to have people in my life since I was a teenager, and blessed to be in the lives of other people since they were teenagers. And it is just these lifelong relationships, they are amazing.
Yeah, certainly. Some of our biggest assets. Yeah, like I said, those lifelong relationships. Yes, indeed. Now, speaking of life transformations, you mentioned working in the jails, the prison, doing prison ministry for over 19 years. I'm sure you saw a lot of transformation there. I guess you speak more about your experience working in the jails.
I can. I'll tell you, that was some of the most discouraging times too. When I was working in the jail system in New York,
yeah,
I was dealing with young offenders who were 16 to 24, and they had a lot of the same things in common. You hear the statistic that one of the most common factors of all people who are incarcerated is that they come from fatherless homes.
Right. Yep.
And I would regularly ask the question. We had 20 to 40 young people in our groups at the same time. And I would regularly ask, that's every few months, I'd ask the group, how many of you grew up with a relationship with your father? If you did not have a relationship with your father.
Right.
Without fail, 17 out of 20 would raise their hands saying that they did not have a relationship with their father.
Yeah.
That was heartbreaking.
It is.
Because what you find is that these young people, particularly these young boys, the young men, the people who were teaching them how to be a man, the people who were teaching them how to be a young person of character, were their friends,
right?
That they chose to look up to, and so they were hungry for somebody to care about them. They were hungry for somebody to actually speak life into them,
right?
And to actually tell them that they were worth something. I remember this one kid. This kid's name was Michael.
Okay.
Michael was an artist, and it was amazing. This kid was amazing. I'll send you some of the pictures that he.
I love that.
I would walk into the jail on that weekend or that week, and I would see him at the computer, because they had computers in the jail. And he would have started with a blank page on Microsoft Paint. And he did the New York Knicks the New York Knicks floor. He did sneakers. I would rip pages out of magazines, and I would say, Mike, why don't you see if you can reproduce this? I would come back the next week, and this thing would be reproduced. 2 of them will be reproduced, and you really couldn't tell the difference.
From the original. Wow.
He started with a blank page of Microsoft Paint. And so what I told him, I said, look, you don't understand how gifted and talented you are. I'm going to take these images that you have on the computer, put them on a jump drive, and I'm going to show them to 100 people that I know. So I took them to architects, I took them to teachers, business people, and I would show them these pictures, and I say, could you do this? And what I found was that 3 people out of the 100 that I took him to,
wow,
he did. So I'd go back to Michael and I say, Mike, I just want you to understand something. I know a lot of people, but you are within 3%, the top 3% of everybody that I know who can do what you do.
Right.
So you're gifted. There is something special about you. He had never, this was just something he did just to do.
Yeah. Didn't realize how gifted he was.
Right. And because maybe nobody ever spoke that into his world.
Right.
That's the power of being able, when you're with them, but he's in jail. He's absolutely in jail. And to me, that was the saddest part, that all this talent, I saw so much talent sitting inside the jail.
Right. Yeah. So for those youth that you worked with that were in the jails, knowing that, the vast majority of them didn't have fathers in the home, and certainly it was something they shared in common. I like the way you broke that down, because it really kind of gives us a visual, because you can hear the high statistics knowing that so many kids are growing up without fathers percentage wise. But for you to say, like, hey, out of a group of 20 young men, 17, 18 of them are raising their hands that they didn't have a father. That's just such a powerful visual. But for those that you worked with that actually were able to get out and actually change the trajectory of their life and actually really change their life around, what were some of the things that they had in common, or what was kind of that turning point for them?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking. because Michael's one of those people.
Awesome.
And I can talk about a few others, but one of the things that you just see, there comes a point where they grow up, and most people don't know the difference between jails and prisons. Jail, when you go to jail, you're only going to be in the jail for up to a year, maybe 2 years max. When you go to prison is when your sentence is longer than a year as a jail.
Yep.
But most of these guys in the jail system, they were going in and out, right? In and out. But there comes a point where somebody speaks life into them, or something about their life clicks. We also had done an entrepreneurship program because I was in a boot camp program.
Okay.
And in the boot camp program, we actually started using a program that was founded by a group called NIFTY, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And I'm pretty sure you know more about this too. But we used NIFTY, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, to start teaching them how to start and operate businesses.
Okay.
Which helped them learn the basics of how businesses work, how to take their ideas and their plans, or even some of the stuff that they were doing beforehand, and make something out of themselves based using that. Right. And what you see is that sometimes just the life itself, the life of understanding that, made a huge difference for them.
Wow.
They would come out, and sometimes you just reconnect them to the community differently. You connect them to mentors. You connect them to people who will speak into their lives.
Right. A support system.
They would get a business, a local business person who would help them with their business plan. So he or she would be mentoring them on their business plan. And so what you just started finding is that they find connection. And once they found connection that was outside of that group that was stagnating them, they could see life from a different perspective.
That's the key.
And I think that's it. Sometimes it is really just seeing life from a different perspective. That sometimes somebody else who's not in your neighborhood, or somebody else who's not in your circle of friends, or your family, or somebody who's connected to your family, but kind of gives you that chance to get life from a different perspective. It changes everything. I think that's all of us. Right.
Yeah. Totally agree. Yes. Inspirational. And it goes back to just how addictive it is to be able to see that transformation, and be part of their support system. You say a lot of times that they just may not know how talented they are. They may not realize that they have value. No one ever told them that. So just to be able to speak life into them. Yeah. Like I said, they're hungry for it.
That's exactly what I found. That's exactly what I found, is that they were like soil that was just dry.
Yep.
And it hadn't been watered enough. I used to ask myself this question: when does it change? Because when kids are little, when kids are, they're small, they're 5, 6, man, we shower them with praise and time and smiles and hugs and connections, and we shower them with that. And then all of a sudden, there's some age where that shifts. And then we starve them.
They still need it just as badly. Yeah.
They absolutely do. And if I could challenge anybody, I would challenge us to not be afraid to continue to water them, to water their lives, to see good things in them, and to call it out, or to call it, because once you see it, and once you see them catch, man, there is nothing, there's nothing like it.
Right. Yep.
Watching beautiful things begin to happen in their lives.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, I know that you're a proud father, and going back to just leadership development, what are some things you could share with the parents that they can do within their own families on helping really develop their teenagers into leaders?
My wife and I, we've been married for 33 years, and we've got 3 children.
Wow. That's amazing. Awesome.
We've got a 29-year-old daughter who just finished her master's degree. We've got a 22-year-old son who just finished his bachelor's degree.
Wow.
And we've got a 12-year-old who's in the 7th grade.
Awesome. Wow.
And so one of the things I've learned over time with each one, but one of the things that we really try to do is we really try to help our young people, help our children learn to think. And learn. Yeah. So we ask them lots of questions.
Okay.
We give them opportunities to learn things. But then you start realizing that there are certain things that when I think about my own life, I ask myself, who taught me about money and when did I learn it? I didn't learn it until I was an adult.
Yep.
need to learn about finance when they're young. They need to learn about leadership when they're young. And we just need to start challenging our young people and pouring into them. Give them everything we got while we're young. That's really what I would say. The best way to develop leadership is to give them opportunities to lead. And then instead of calling things out in them, call it up in them. It's a difference, right? Because we all be on that the other end of pointing out their mistakes. There's a difference between pointing out a mistake and giving a young person an opportunity to grow.
Wow.
It's taken me 29 years, but I think with my youngest, I'm doing it differently than
okay.
Yeah, I'm really trying to do that differently, where I'm trying to give her opportunities to make decisions and then learn about those decisions. And let's do it together. But nothing you can change for time. So please give your children your time. Listen to them and give them time.
That's the blueprint right there. That's the formula. Certainly. Wow, that is really great advice. Yeah, I never heard it put that way before, like call up, not call out. I like that. And giving them opportunities to grow. And that's something that I think that's really overlooked by, especially with the education system and with parents overlooked, is just how important it is to teach them how to think critically.
Yes.
That's such an invaluable skill.
Yes.
You can be book smart, but that doesn't mean not have those critical thinking skills, which is,
Here's the thing, I see so many kids who think like you, who think cynically.
Okay.
Critically. And there's a difference. When you're cynical, you don't trust anything. When you're critical, you learn to discern stuff. There's a difference.
Yep.
So after a while, another piece is that when you're working with young people, I know I grew up with this. I grew up with a bunch of shackles in my mind, right? Of things I couldn't do, or things I was allowed to do, or things I didn't ever feel I was good at. And so the answer was no to a lot of stuff, to be honest. And so I grew up with a lot of prohibitions.
Okay.
And so what happens is, as you get older, you believe everything is a prohibition.
Yeah.
And it becomes, instead of a prohibition, it becomes an inhibition. And I think sometimes the real question becomes, who says you can't? When you're 10, there's some stuff you can't do. But at 21, there's some stuff you should be doing.
Right.
And operating at this with that same prohibition. And I think this is where we as parents need to give our children and give anybody who's around us the ability to spread their wings and realize that the answer is not usually no. No is reserved for those things that are not good for you.
Right.
Things that might be good for you, take off the inhibition and let them actually try and give it a shot. Because I didn't learn that stuff until I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, same here.
I really want to free my kids and free anybody that I work with as early as possible. Understand what things are solid boundaries and what I need to grow with.
I love that. Really hope the parents are taking notes there, because I remember it was a while back, I was watching a commercial and it was showing like, it was one parent where they were all on a bus. It was two sets of parents on a bus and had two small kids around the same age. One parent, the mother, she was just letting her daughter just explore the bus and was standing on the seat. Well, from the outside looking in, it kind of looked like the child was kind of out of control. And then the other parent was like really stern and like wouldn't let the kid move, and the kid looked terrified. And what the point there is really trying to relay or illustrate is like the kid that's exploring is really likely going to explore in other ways in her life and all other areas of her life, and have that freedom and not those inhibitions, versus the kid that the bus was like really stern and no, you can't do anything, don't even move, keep your eyes straight. It's going to impact other areas of their life as well.
Absolutely.
So that was so powerful to me. Like, wow. And that's just kind of what you just explained. It's so important. Just
from what I've seen and gotten a chance to know about you, I get the sense that I don't know who took the lid off of you. Is that something you would share, or is that something?
Sure. I think
it off of you.
For me, it was kind of later in life. I grew up with a strict mother and grandmother, and definitely got told no a lot. And then it became to a point where I started telling myself no. But I think maybe my early adulthood, maybe joining the military and just starting to just being exposed to a lot more at that point. That kind of, I would say, took the lid off, and just traveling to different countries and seeing things from different perspectives, being exposed to people who were just free thinkers and free spirits. My first duty station at 18, I was stationed in Germany. That had a huge impact on just being stationed and being in Europe, living in a foreign country and just seeing so many different cultures and customs. Yeah, I would say that was probably the biggest turning point for me.
That's good. I mean, 'cause again, you get that opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to go back. I do want to revisit something, because I don't want to give the impression that just because a kid comes from a fatherless home, that they're destined to be at risk for failure, because that's not true. I mean, there are fatherless kids with their fathers right at home.
That is so true.
I've tried to make sure that my kids weren't fatherless with me, because, look, Mom, I know that moms do great jobs and dads do great jobs. I think that the biggest key either way is giving your sons and your daughters access to people. It's like a web, right? If you think about how a web is made, every one of those connection points is a person.
Right.
The child has not just safe places to land, but safe people to land on.
Right. Yep.
And I think it does take a village.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
The foundation starts with mom or dad or both, hopefully, but that web of people who they get to land in, and there is nothing like it, because they know they're safe.
Right.
Because they're safe. And then they see stuff, so many different people speak into their lives. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I know that, sometimes we get this feel that, we're destined, if our circumstances are not with a two-parent home. That means, to me, that's just something that you start with. It's a starting point.
Right. I like the way you put that. And the children's book I wrote really kind of highlights that concept, where it's talking about kids without the father in the home, but the mother is proactive and intentional about introducing their kids to positive male role models within the community, whether it's at the church, school, things like that. So, yeah, it's a really good point.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, love it. But like you say, there certainly are plenty of fatherless kids, and the fathers in the home, and really
right
more
there.
of they're
there.
Either just not present, or they're a toxic influence. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, because look, if your father's home, but everything is always no.
Right.
You become a child mentally imprisoned and emotionally imprisoned.
Right.
You're imprisoned to know. It just becomes a challenge. We're supposed to free and supposed to liberate, and we're supposed to set free our children to go further than us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But if we're not careful, we destine them to be us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've told my kids from the time they were little, I said, look, you have to have at least as much education as I had.
Yeah.
So
it's the bare minimum, yeah.
But then I went and got a second master's, but you at least got to start there. Because
right. That's the baseline.
I want them to go further than me.
Right.
Give my kids a head start. They end up so much further along and blessing so many other lives. That's what it's designed to do. And that's what God has given us to do, is to lead people better than we found them and give them more opportunity, and then walk them right into what they're destined to be and who they're destined to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And speaking of fathers, so what advice should you give fathers that's listening, where I guess things that they can do to be more just involved in their kids' life and be more intentional about helping them grow?
I'm going to say, do everything you can to be there.
Okay. Well, back to that time.
I had a father not long ago I was talking to, who, the family had gone through a divorce. He was having a tough time with his, the relationship with his ex-wife, and the daughter's mother was strained, and she was at that age where she was separating and pulling away from dad and didn't want to talk to him and this kind of thing. And here's what I said to him. I said, look, here's one. She may believe that you don't love her. There may be things that are being said to you or about you. Here's what I want you to do. Every single day for the rest of her life, you send her a text in the morning to tell her you're thinking about it and you love her.
Wow.
She don't have to read it. thing with it. But here's what'll happen. It's every day, and don't miss a day.
Right.
Hey, you tell her, and if you send it at the same time every day, she'll expect it every day.
Even better. Yeah.
That you love her and you think about her. She may not see you, but every day she knows you love her.
Right.
I believe that truth can't be stopped. I believe that love can't be stopped. I believe dads, if you're in your children's lives, make sure they know you love them, not just provide for them.
Right.
And if you're not able to be in their lives, you make sure that they know you love them. Because I'm going to tell you, that is the soil that will let their roots grow deep. Knowing that they are loved by their parents, there is nobody else who's going to have be their bigger fan in their lives. Nobody than mom and dad.
Right.
Say know that. Who can stop them?
Unstoppable. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
I give you that. I just say be in their lives as best you can and leave a mark.
Right.
That mark is a daily text. If that's all you got for right now, then that's all you got.
Yep. Give them what you got.
That's it. That's it.
That's awesome. Awesome. Pastor Jeff, what role would you say that church plays in helping the teenagers develop into leaders and just be well-rounded, successful adults, whether it's church, spirituality? What would be your input there?
Well, let me say this. As a Christian, I truly believe that Jesus Christ is clearly the one who determines and who guides and who blesses our destiny. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Right.
No success that I am ever going to be in my life without Christ. But I do believe that a young person's faith, and again, I speak from a Christian perspective. I do believe that faith in a young person helps them navigate a crazy world, a world where the ends justify the means. But a life where there's faith, the ends don't justify the means. There is an objective standard that they have to live up to or live by because it's true.
Right.
And so I say to parents, please do not neglect your children's faith walk.
Yeah.
And connect them to people of faith because they need to be around people who are living for something that is bigger than themselves.
Right.
But I would also say to parents, don't give over the responsibility of training your child in matters of faith to the church. Don't just drop kids off it. Like, really? I mean, that's one of my challenges.
Babysitter.
Yeah. I believe I watch so many parents drop their kids off at camp or drop their kids off at youth group. And the people there are supposed to be the ones who are pouring spirituality or spiritual life into your children.
Right.
That's your job. Our job is you. Our job, that job, the role of the church is to help you do your job better.
Okay.
So, and we'll do our part, but I do not, matter of fact, put that one first. Before you give them anything else, you show them what it looks like to be in faith. And then you expect that of them.
I love that. Great advice. And something we always say in the Army is lead from the front. And that's really what parents have to. They have to lead from the front. Yes, indeed.
Can I just add one more thing, Derek?
Please do.
Okay, let me say this. I have a friend of mine he's a motivational speaker, and I met him in Nifty. His name is Raphael Gordon, and Ra has his catchphrase is "Your location is not your destination," and I think that's a powerful point.
Yeah.
I've tried to add to that with him that your destination is not your destiny, and I believe there needs to be a point where every young person needs to understand that human beings, circumstances, power structures do not determine their destiny.
Right. God
determines their destiny.
Yep.
They never have to be afraid or ashamed or stopped by any system. You know, we talk about systemic oppression. We talk about systemic.
Right.
Systems don't stop you, only roadblocks in front of you.
Yep.
When you believe that there is a God, God determines what your destiny is, and there's nobody who will ever stop you. Nobody. And I think as parents, that's a lesson that we need to plant deep into our children.
Yeah.
Into ourselves.
I totally agree. And I think that it kind of highlights how it's being a person of faith and believing in God and God controlling your destiny it doesn't align with once you start thinking about it's systematic racism or things like that that's preventing me from reaching my destination. Yes, that's showing your lack of faith in God and understanding what God has in store for you. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
not the systems and the government. Yeah, that's so true.
No, government people create roadblocks. There will be people in your life who will try to stop you. They can't stop you. All they can do is give you a reason to go around them.
Right.
Or pause. If we are people of faith, I have to trust that God will see me through this no matter what you do or what happens to me. Because it's not what happens to me, it's who's with me when it happens.
You're right about that. Wow, Pastor Jeff, you've given us a lot of great gems. Wow, you certainly.
I appreciate being able to just talk. I have followed just a little bit of what you've been doing since we met about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I have just in that time, I've tried to learn more about you and your family and why you pour into people in circumstances the way you do. I can tell you're a man of faith. I can tell you're a man who lives on.
Absolutely.
And that purpose comes from someone bigger than you.
It has to, certainly. And yeah, I appreciate that. And I feel blessed to have you put in my life. And yeah, I'm certainly planning on learning from you. And just as I think of my last question is kind of more of a personal nugget. Being married 33 years. What's the secret? I'm sure you get that question all the time. But I just celebrated 5 years. So I certainly want to reach the 30-year mark. So yeah, what would you say is the secret? What would you say to a young new couple like myself?
All right. Well, you already know that you didn't get married. God bound y'all together. So that's so certainly. Marriage is the spiritual union. It's not just a physical one.
Yeah.
But I would say the biggest lesson is remember that you married for the long haul.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we determined very early that we were married for the long haul.
Right.
And we've gone through some stuff. I mean, we had a child die. We've many things. And here's our reality. We are in this together.
Right.
We're committed to God. We're committed to each other. And yeah, we're learning about each other.
Right. You're always evolving.
33 years and still learning how to communicate. I'm still learning how to communicate to where my wife speaks, But I'll tell you this. I told my wife when we got married, I said, honey, you got to be married to me 75 years before you can leave. And so on our 20th anniversary, she gave me a new ring. And on the inside, she had 55 years and counting. Because, by that point, we'll be in our 90s.
Right. You want to go at that point. Like, all right.
but we really do believe that we love each other and we married for the long haul, my friend.
Yeah.
Come what may. God's got us, and we got that. That's all I can tell you, brother.
Yeah, that's all I need to hear. That's remarkable.
It doesn't get any better than that.
And I remember when I was dating my wife, it was probably a couple of years dating, and she had mentioned to me like she didn't believe in a divorce. Her grandparents were married over 50 years. And at the time, I'm thinking like, what do you mean you don't believe in divorce? But once I said I do, I had to adopt that same belief. Like, I don't believe in divorce either. I know what I'm in for. I know what I signed up for. Yeah, it's a long haul. And that really does change your approach to marriage, because if you feel like I can lead this marriage anytime it gets hard, then yeah, it's totally different than saying, hey, I know we have to work through whatever we face together, because leaving's not an option, or leaving after 75 years is the only option. That it definitely gives you a different perspective. You're like, okay, we have to work through this.
Yeah, and I
sadly,
we've gotten to that place where we need to see that more, and I think
we do. We certainly do.
When you need, that's why you need intergenerational things.
Yep.
Because you need to see couples who've been married for 50 years. You need to go to them, and you need to ask them. Very early on, we got married. I was pastoring in Texas.
Okay.
They were both in their 90s.
Wow.
And Mr. Smith, his name was Mr. Smith. And I asked Mr. Smith, they had been married for 75 years. That's why I told him.
Holy cow.
And I said to him, Mr. Smith, how y'all been married this long? He said, don't fight. Fight. But then his wife would come into the room and he asked her for some water. But he called her name. And every time he called her name, he would cry. Every time he would call her name, he would start to cry. And then he would say, she is the biggest gift that God has ever given me. And I said, I literally left his little place in small town, East Texas. And I said, I want a marriage like that.
Certainly. Wow. Love it. Love it. Well, Pastor Jeff, wow. Like I said, give us so many gems. I really appreciate you. Also adding a little marriage counseling in for me. Give me some tips. I had to get an extra bonus. Yeah, that was more an extra bonus. I was getting ready to wrap up this interview. Is there any closing words of advice you want to leave the parents with?
I want to say thank you to you for being a leader worth following. You're a leader who is trying to not just speak into the life of others, but you're trying to let others speak into your life. And I just want to say thank you for that, because that's something that we all need to be reminded of. I'm learning from you.
It's a pleasure.
You're doing some incredible things. And I just want to say thank you and pray that the parents that you reach, the young people that you reach, that they can hear you and that they too can keep adding into your world.
I really appreciate it, and definitely feelings mutual. And
God bless you, brother.
Bless you as well. And also, Pastor Jeff, how could listeners get in contact with you if they wanted to reach you?
If they want to reach me, you can reach me at Jeff, Jeff, B as in boy, R, D as in David, N, Nancy, AX @gmail.com.
Wow. All right. Definitely. Well, certainly appreciate you taking time out of your day to just pour into us. That's what you've been doing. And I'm really just inspired by your journey and knowing how you're so passionate about helping youth and just all you've done over your career. So I know you're going to continue to make a great impact, and I'll definitely continue to hope to learn from you and just pour into each other and inspire each other.
I look forward to more times together, my friend, because I'm already learning from you.
Yeah, I'm honored.
You've done things I want to do. You've written books. I want to read those. I appreciate that.
Definitely. Pastor Jeff, you take care, and I'll be in touch.
Okay, brother.
You've been listening to Mentor Select. Mentor Select. Parenting teens to be successful adults. Hosted by Derrich Phillips. Raising teenagers is hard. Understatement of the century. We get it. That's why Derrich interviews leading experts that work with teens, educators, counselors, mentors, and authors to give you practical tips, strategies, and resources that you can incorporate immediately to better connect and understand your teen. That's why we do the show. Be sure to share Mentor Select with other parents of teens. Follow us on social media at Mentor Select to stay up to date on the latest tips, strategies, and resources for parenting teens. Send your questions and comments to Derrich@mentorselect.com. Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes. Till next time, this is Mentor Select.